Recording or not?
Let's start at the very beginning. So we have, I think, a couple different setups, and we'll kind of talk through different scenarios. But I will start with coming out of the water. So I think even before that, when you arrive in the morning at transition, it's very, very important to get there really early, rather than, I think, where were we? In Texas. Tori raced in Texas, and Chris and I were there, and people were like, it was causing me like a mental breakdown because she was in the water and people were walking to transition. And that winds up setting you up for a very, very long day. There's a lot of research basically that shows that the higher the rate of perceived exertion you have before a race, the higher your stress, the more you're gonna feel everything is harder throughout the day. So for us, we always recommend that athletes get up. We have a really strict eating protocol. It starts 3 hours before the race. So you're up anyway. So you wanna just get up and get into transition. In Ironman races, you can't have anything in transition other than your transition area. So it's also important to get rid of your stuff. And that locally, you can kind of have things around or underneath your rack, but any other larger races, that's not allowed. So you've got to get your bag out of there. So you need to also have enough time to get in, get your stuff set up, and get out. All right, so let's start with coming out of the water. So in the morning, going to the swim start, we always have with us our fuel that we take before, a bottle of water to take our fuel. I usually bring 2 pairs of goggles. I have my swim cap that's given to me from the race, and then I have a spare swim cap with me. My wetsuit, or in this case, I'm wearing a skin suit. And the reason why I have a spare swim cap is because if you have a lot of hair like me and you rip your swim cap, you can actually wear any swim cap. They're not going to get angry with you, but you just need to have, I need to swim in a swim cap. What else do you bring with you, Tori, to swim start? That's it, right?
My gel.
Yep, your gel.
Fuel.
But I always wear 2 swim caps. I wear a swim cap under, and then I wear the goggles, and then I wear the swim cap, the race swim cap.
Yep, so I actually, in a race, wear goggles, swim cap over. And the reason for that, I'll show you, is if I put my swim cap over here, then when someone swims up behind me and rips me in the head, they can't rip my goggles off,
Right.
which is why she wears 2, right?
Yeah.
In Ironman swims, sometimes we'll actually even recommend that you put a second pair of goggles up on your leg and swim at them, just in case your goggles or something happens to you. You can float on your back and you can pull them off and you can put them on. In the case of getting out, I wish I had a wetsuit on.
Flip.
I don't, clearly. But when I come out of the water, watch this, I actually just raced in Texas as well. So when I come out of the water, you want to do everything you possibly can do on the move. So anything that you can do while you're running, you should be doing while you're running. So when I come out of the water, the first thing I do is, I'm going to do this again. So while I get out of the water, right, I come up on the swim exit, I put my goggles on my head, I pull my cap off, and then if I race in a wetsuit, it's only long sleeve. I pull my thing up, and then I have it down, and then I literally let go of my goggles and my swim cap, pull my wetsuit off, and they're stuck in my sleeve. And they will be there when you're done. If you don't have a sleeveless wetsuit, that's a different thing. How many of you have gone to a race and watched someone drop their stuff and then like stop and turn around and go back and get it? Not only does that waste time, but that's also actually dangerous. You don't want to be moving against the flow of traffic. So if you have sleeves on your wetsuit, you literally just let go of it and it will pop right out in your sleeve. This suit is actually designed to be a tearaway zipper, so you can just tear it and go. So as I am running, I'm doing the same thing. So here, and then it's just in here, and I roll it up as I'm running out, okay? And then when you come into transition, right, you get to your spot and you can take it the rest of the way off. It is really important to practice doing this with your wetsuit, like stepping on it and pulling it up before you actually do it, because it will just take longer. You should be pretty good. You'll see people, you'll actually watch the pose, they'll be like stepping and doing this like high step. Any questions about getting from the water to the bike? Yeah.
If there are strippers, do you use them or do
Yeah.
you? Okay.
Yep.
If you're wearing a 2-piece kit, hold on to your bottoms.
There haven't been strippers since COVID.
Right.
There were at Ironman Texas.
There were at Ironman Texas. Okay, so they're back. Strippers are back.
Yes.
So, yes, unless the only time I wouldn't use
Strippers during COVID.
Of course you did.
Scott, edit that out. Edit. Minute 4.
The only time I wouldn't do that is if I'm like running up the line and there's no one there.
And there's no one available.
But I will tell you that the best tool you have in either getting aid at an Ironman or getting or a triathlon or getting like whatever you need is your voice. So if you make eye contact with whoever the person you need and you say like, you do this now, right? And then you like you have to sit down, right? Does everybody know that? So if you do use a wetsuit stripper, the best way to do it is to get your wetsuit as far down over your butt as you can, sit down, and then they'll just whip it off. Yep. If it's stuck on you, then it takes longer.
Don't try to help them because they've got it down. And if you try to help them, I messed them up so bad.
I've never done triathlon before. What is a stripper?
Oh.
They literally strip your wetsuit off.
They literally strip your wetsuit off. So you have a wetsuit
on.
It's a person who helps.
All right, there we go.
In all contexts,
yes.
Probably.
3 or 4 people that will help you.
Okay.
They'll strip your wetsuit right off of you, and then they'll hand it to you, and you run back into transition.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So even if they don't have strippers, you want to get that wetsuit comfortably down as far as you can so that you have less to do when you get to your spot in transition.
Yep. It's hard to run with your wetsuit.
Not all the way down,
but you'll have it down and then you'll run to your spot and then you'll get it down. But it is really worth your time to practice. Like if you're here swimming on the weekends, when you take your wetsuit off, do it in a fashion that you would in a race environment. Make
sure your watch and your timing chip are not on the outside of your wetsuit when this happens, or it will rip your watch and your timing chip off. You want your wetsuit to be over your watch and over your timing chip.
You also want your wetsuit to be over your timing chip so that nobody pulls
no one knocks it off. Right.
Safety pin your timing chip off.
Yep. Okay, any other questions? So let's kind of come over here. We can go over, so Chris has a setup, I have my setup, and Corey has a setup. Okay, so traditionally bikes are racked every other one. If you're racing Chattanooga next weekend, there are 4,000 people signed up for that race. It will be the largest Ironman ever, okay? So I'm gonna assume that some of those people won't show up, but you're going to be very close in racks. So this setup is for anything half Ironman and below. In Ironman, it's a whole different thing, which we're not gonna get in today, because you have a bag, and it's a whole different thing.
Sometimes point to point.
Yep, okay? So the only thing I don't have with me is I don't have fuel, but I will show you how I would do that. So let's start by just sort of talking through a bunch of different equipment pieces. I brought with me, this is a traditional race belt, right? This is obviously for the run, but I want to go through this before we go through the other stuff. So this is a traditional race belt that goes around you like this. This is what I race short course in. Yeah, okay. And then this is what I race long course in. So full disclosure, we are sponsored by this brand, but we're sponsored by them because they're awesome. So all of the coaches and a lot of the team wear these. These are called naked belts. You see they have the 2 little guys on them, so you can attach your number to them. You step through them. They come all the way up. It takes like a second. And then it carries everything you need. Okay, so in long course, I race in this because we always race with fuel on us. And so you can put water bottles in here, you can put gels, you can put a ton of stuff, and it does not move. And then the other equipment differences that you might have would be, this is my race helmet. All right, so it has a shield on it. I don't obviously wear sunglasses. Or you would have a setup where you would have a helmet and sunglasses. I think that's the only difference in equipment, right? Or I race with race locks, and
I don't.
And Tori has shoes that have laces. I race with race locks half Ironman and lower, and Ironman I would tie my shoes. And the reason for that is like I'm about to run a marathon, and it's just more comfortable for me to have my shoes tied than sometimes my feet will go numb with locks. Okay, so what everyone wants to know, or should always think about in transition, is that nothing good ever happens in transition. So your goal is to get out of there as soon as you can, right? It's where all the chaos happens. It's where people are frantic. And you can set your transition up really beautifully, and then you can arrive there and it's like completely destroyed. So you just need to be patient, but you want to get in and get out really fast. When you arrive at transition, you should know all of the landmarks, right? So it's really easy to get discombobulated when you're running in. So there's usually numbers on the end of the rack. You can use that. Or I always try and find like if I was here and I was coming up this road, I'd be like, okay, my rack is at that yellow pole, or there's a porta potty, or there's something. But it needs to be something that's stationary and not something that is going to move. But it's important to find a landmark, and you can count your racks. You should also walk, especially in a larger race, you're gonna find that you're going to have like a walk in and around, and you might have to run around a different way. You should know all of those things prior to race morning, and then do it again race morning. So you really do need a lot of time. If it's a 7 a.m. start, I'm arriving at transition at 5 a.m. Okay, so I guess just to come, if you guys want to gather around and take a look at how we're set up, you want to be bike stuff first and then run stuff behind it. When you arrive at transition in the morning, you put your nutrition on. So you should not leave your nutrition overnight in transition, especially not if you are racing a race like Chattanooga where they're predicting it's going to be in the 90s, right? So when you get into transition in the morning, if you don't have a bike pump with you, the very first thing you do is you either befriend your neighbor with a bike pump, or you go to the mechanic and you get your tires pumped up. And you bring your bike back and you start to get yourself set up. And the reason why we recommend that you do the bike pump thing first is because the later it goes, the more chaotic it gets, and the harder it might be to find someone to pump your tires if you don't have one with you.
It's probably not a bad idea to underinflate your tires if you're dropping off your bike the night before.
Yep.
Because if it's hot during the day and your son's out there or your bike is out in the sun all day, it could affect the tire pressure, and there's been issues where tires will pop overnight. So some people will deflate their tires, not all the way, but just enough to leave some room, and then when you get there, pump them up straight away.
And the other reason why you want to deal with your tires first is because if you do get a flat in transition, you have enough time to fix it. That happened to one of our athletes in Texas. It causes like a momentary, complete, utter disaster panic, then everybody gets it under control, and you usually have plenty of time. But deal with your tires first. Then get yourself set up, put your nutrition on. I always have in my transition bag, I always have electrical tape. You have no clue what you're gonna need it for, but you could tape like your aero bottle on, or your bike computer is doing something crazy. So you tape, I always have that with me, and I always have an extra pair of socks and extra fuel, just in case. You have no, like sometimes you can arrive and things are crazy. All right, does everyone know what tri-slide is?
No.
Okay. It also might come in handy if you wear a stripper, but it works really great as well as a triathlete. It's a lubricant. So, I'm from New York.
Scott, 12 minutes, edit.
So it's awesome. You should get this. Why it's so great is that it makes everything easier to come off. All right. So I spray my feet, I spray my ankles, I spray every single seam in my tri-kit. I spray my neck, and I also spray my socks. Okay, so you just basically spray those suckers up, and this is when I'm going to talk to you about socks. People are often amazed how fast we can get in and out of transition wearing socks. And the reason why I can do that very quickly is I take my sock and I roll it up like this. And it's also sprayed with tri-slide. And then these are actually huge socks, but I basically put my foot in, and then I can just unroll it really fast.
And
socks
you're going to wear that same pair for the bike and run?
In a half Ironman, yes.
Okay.
And socks are faster than no socks, if you care about minute details of fast things. So I wear them on the bike, and I wear them on the run, and I keep the same pair on, okay? I will tell you, actually, if you get a blister, the worst thing you can do is take your sock off. Just run through it. As soon as you take your sock or shoe off when you have a blister, what happens? Like, you move exactly where the blister was, and it's usually more painful. But if you spray your feet with tri-slide, you rarely get blisters, I feel. Okay, so then I have my shoes, I have my socks in my shoes, and I have my helmet ready to go. My helmet is unbuckled, and it is like on the way. It's like this, because then it's quickly this, right? So it's facing the way that I need it. My bike has a bento box built in. Tori's does as well. You can see she has her gels in it. So I already have my fuel there. If you do not have a bento box and you need to put your fuel in your kit, then you should put your fuel in your helmet. And the reason for that is that when you pick up your helmet and put it on, your fuel will fall out and you will not forget it. It's easy to kind of forget fuel if you're not paying attention. All right?
Did you bring e-tape in your bag? Electrical tape?
Yeah, I did.
I can show them how to
Oh, yeah.
later.
Yeah. Okay. So,
sorry, a
yeah.
question. Any specific fuel you recommend using the goo?
So that is about a 2.5 hour lecture. So yes, we would recommend very, very specific things, but that's a big discussion. Okay? I will tell you this is the fast and dirty piece of it. Whatever you plan to race with, you should be training with every single day. Okay? And you should aim between 60 and 90 grams of carbohydrate an hour. Okay? All right, so coming into transition, Tori, do you want to quickly run through like what you would do if you came in and put your bike helmet and shoes on? I'll get out of the way. I can kind of talk her through it.
So I personally, if I'm doing a half or under, I usually do not wear socks on the bike. But it depends on the weather. If the weather's cooler, I am going to wear socks because I don't want my toes to get numb. So if I wear a race helmet like this as well because I don't want to deal with sunglasses. I like the shield, but I don't train in it. So for today's demonstration, I'm going to run in. Some people go bottom to top. I go top to bottom. So my first thing is that I'm going to put on my sunglasses because they are in my helmet and I don't want to forget them. And then I'm going to buckle. Normally, I don't have my shoes are on my bike. I do not Velcro them until I'm out on the bike. Okay. And I'm going to run. And then I'm going to mount. Now, when you cross that mount line, you do not have to mount immediately. I suggest running past that mount line 25 to 35 yards after, because if you've ever been at a race, if you've not or have seen one, it is all congested. Everybody gets on their bikes and you see them all looking down and they're wobbly. You're in a higher rate of getting in an accident because everybody wants to make sure that they're clipped in and everything, get in a safe spot, and that's when I'll go ahead and I'll Velcro my shoes on